Hello people. Today I'd like to focus on Germany. And there are many things that I can be saying about Europe in general. I mentioned a fair bit in my previous videos. Europe is in such a situation that I'm having difficulties with it anyhow. I'm sure many of you have heard or you know of the concept, Italy is back quite a bit. It's in general, Europe is smaller. It's like it shrunk. Someone sucked some mass away from Europe, to say the least. And that can be said about a handful of other places in the world, which I'll probably have a video on in the future. Other than that, I'll mention a couple little things. To me, the UK is in the wrong direction. It's pointing a little bit to the west from the north. A little bit northwest. To me, it should be pointing a little bit northeast. And Ireland is much bigger, which I think is wonderful. Good for Ireland. I like Ireland and its people. And one other one I guess I'll just mention right off is I'd heard a couple of people mention that they really are sure that Portugal is supposed to be between Spain and France. This is quite a bit of news to me. I've never knew that. What's funny is there's something that just hints to me something seems familiar about that, but I'm sure I never thought that as a kid. But there's almost like there's some little hint of a memory that kind of rings a bell, but still I don't think that was ever actually the case. I'm just saying there's a little bit of something in my head that tells me I thought that for a moment at one time or something. Anyway, for me, Portugal actually should have been, as far as I remember, not real strong, but as far as I remember, Portugal was supposed to take up this whole strip of Spain, not just 2/3 of that or 3/4 of that side. And yeah, I knew as a young kid, Spain, Mildred, Portugal, Lisbon. I just knew this, as when I learned countries and their capitals. Anyhow, as I was mentioning, I'd like to focus a little bit on Germany. And I did see a video where everybody was mentioning how Germany used to be more centralized, and I would say, yeah, for sure. Definitely right off from the beginning, to me, Germany was like, it's smaller than it's supposed to be. And I could see that with the Netherlands and Belgium, like, they just size up to Germany a little bit better, kind of a fair bit better, even though they're much smaller. But nonetheless, Germany should be much bigger, even in comparison to the countries around it, not just Europe being shrunk in general. So this morning, I thought I'd look at Germany, and for some reason, I could be wrong. A lot of this, I'm not real sure on, so I'm kind of just putting the questions out there. I would have thought that Germany had a little bit of access to the Black Sea. I'm not real sure on that. The fact that Germany has access to the ocean, it's called the North Sea, the fact it has access to that side of Denmark is really not right to me. Definitely the Baltic Sea they would have had some coastline on. And these are significant things during, the First, Second World War. Different reasons why what coastline, what ocean you have access to is a big deal. Back in the days during more conventional style wars. Which led me to I looked at it and I'm like, well, one other one I'll mention, Moscow to me, I'd like to know what you guys think, because Moscow to me is way too close to Europe. I know now we have Ukraine and Belarus, and therefore the distance from Poland and Romania to Moscow, or what seems like the edge of Europe maybe seems a little less or something because of these breakoffs. But nonetheless, to me, Moscow's still way too close. Like, overall, it just seems odd. But anyhow, back to Germany. What do I know about Germany? Not a great bit, but, there was East and West at one time. And it got me thinking, well, Berlin was cut in half. And this is where current situation does not jive with what I remember. And the basics of what I remember pretty well, but I wasn't really that much of a history buff to know a lot of details or to be 100% sure on every little thing. But the current situation just, I can't even agree with it, blows my freaking mind. Berlin had the Berlin Wall. And Germany, there was the East and West Germany. Of course, East being controlled by the Soviets at the time, and the West being controlled by the Allied nations, being US, Britain, France, and so on. And the way I remember it, which seems pretty logical, and what I see now is not logical to me whatsoever, the Berlin Wall, from my recollection, was centered in the division of East and West Germany. Therefore, the basically the wall that went through Berlin was also the border that divided East and West Germany. And it became a very busy hub for people trying to escape from one side to the other, typically from the east to the west, because the border between East and West Germany was many miles. You couldn't just cross the land. But the city was divided you're only so many hundreds of feet away from the other side. So it became a hub of people trying to escape to West Germany. And that's the reality that I remember. Berlin was the center of the Berlin Wall, which was also the center of the East and West Germany. And that logically makes sense to me. You had the Allies come in, and the Russians come in, and basically bunch got one half, Russians got the other half, and they split Berlin right down the middle. And this is how things went on. Now, mind you, I'm sure a great deal of it was far more orchestrated by greater powers in the world at the time to try to keep a balance in things, so they didn't lose control, let's say. But nonetheless, Berlin was a division of North and West Germany from the way I remember. And the type of scenario I just explained makes logical sense. One side, the other side, cut her all in half. That was it. Plain and simple. Now, the Berlin Wall, I'm reading and being told that the Berlin Wall was not just a division between Berlin. The Berlin Wall actually circumferenced West Berlin. Because, get this, the Berlin was not at the division of East and West Germany. Berlin was basically on the east side of East Germany, as you can see here in this little picture, which just blows my mind. I don't get it. To me, this is this is so illogical and wrong to me, but it just, even from a logical perspective, it doesn't even make sense. I've read probably 5 or 6 websites this morning trying to figure out how did this occur. Obviously there was some allies in the capital, so was there allies in the capital and then the Germans ended up surrounding the capital? And I can't even get a clear answer from the websites I'm reading. I do apologize, maybe I should have dove deeper, but I can't even believe it anymore. It gets difficult to read something that you don't even think is necessarily legitimate. But yeah, so we had East and West Berlin that existed within East Germany now. So somehow this came about. And in the reading that I did, it says that, there was a rail and a main road corridor. There was a corridor section from West Germany into West Berlin. Well, that's a long freaking ways. How does that make any sense? Why? I don't understand. Maybe it's not a completely impossible circumstance to come about, but it's completely illogical. It just doesn't even jive. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand. I'm hoping some of you guys can help me out a little bit with what happened now and maybe what you remember as a different past. Maybe help confirm what I'm saying. Maybe I'm just totally wrong and it wasn't, Berlin wasn't the center of the East and West Germany division. I don't think, I remember pretty strongly otherwise. But to me, just looking at the circumstance is just a joke. Just stupid. What the fuck? It don't make sense, right? But anyhow, that's my beef. At the moment, I'm going to call bullshit on it. And I'll leave it at that, because like I said, my knowledge of that history is not precise. But you don't need much precision to look at this and just think, that's screwed. It just doesn't seem right. And certainly at a glance, you're looking at East and West Germany. I had a globe growing up. You might have heard me mention in some earlier videos that I had a globe, and on that globe I had North and West, I had North and West, or sorry, North and South Vietnam, East and West Germany, the USSR. So it was an older globe, and so I could see East and West Germany, and they were very comparable in size. What you see here is not comparable in size. West Germany looks darn near twice the size of East Germany. That's certainly, I know just as strongly, if not more so, that wasn't the case. They were cut fairly evenly. Both extended just as far, for the most part, from the north to south. Here it's like East Germany is, yeah, you know, kind of now Czechoslovakia. Of course, none of this is really the case because it's all screwed up anyhow. That's about it, guys, for the Berlin Wall and Germany. I just wanted to spit that out. One other thing I'll mention, if you guys are seeing some of my other videos, you know, I did some early ones on the Maldives. I'll mention most of my videos, especially the early ones, I just ran the camera. You know, I didn't necessarily sit back and think about it a lot and have time to digest it all and come to a more firm conclusion. So I apologize for any of my earlier videos that may be a little erratic in nature, or even some things I may have said I may have a different perspective now. But I thought at the time it was important, especially for the world in general, it was important for me to roll the camera and speak to you all as straight up and immediately and honestly as possible. And I figured it would come across that way too, so you could understand how sure I was and just to go on that journey with me. Other than that, if any of you guys are feeling a little ambitious within the Maldives and actually also within the Bahamas, but in the Maldives for sure. At one point I had located some circles, large circles, and I had kind of made a joke. I think I deleted the video, but I was kind of making a joke at the time, like, oh, they sacrifice people there or something. And then there was like 5 more circles that kind of went off in different directions. And all of them, by Google Earth, had the very center whited out, like a little white dot, just like the white roadways you get. And there was just so much extreme changes in the map at the time, I kind of threw it aside. I'm trying to locate that again, because actually I think it might be, you know, kind of some bad crap, and I'd like to bring light to that. So if any of you guys are bored, I can't find it. There's hundreds of islands to the Maldives. See if you can find that. You should be able to find 4 small circles, kind of just off from one another, 1 large circle in the vicinity. And it's not a very populated island that it was on. It looked like some rich guy's island kind of deal at one end, and then the other end had a few more homes on it. I would like to bring that to light to everybody. And I also seen a circumstance also in the Bahamas, but not as damning looking. Anyhow, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'm sure to have some more interesting things to bring to you guys. Take care.